In this video, we're going to be taking a look at some of the best Lego Castle MOCs of all time, as was the result of my recent poll on my channel. You can see Castle won by a very slim margin. So without further ado, let's get into it. We're going to be taking a look at the Brothers Brick archives with all the MOCs that have been featured to do with the castle. First, we have this very impressive Black Falcon's castle MOC. You can see some of the key features they've used include these olive green masonry bricks scattered throughout the walls, which create that mossy, crumbling look that a lot of castle builders enjoy. They've included the same colour as vines and foliage throughout, keeping that limited colour palette to create a more unified appearance. For the flowers, they've used this light yellow that I haven't seen used often before, but I think it does a good job, especially when paired with the blue and yellow colour scheme of the Black Falcons. You can see there are plenty of details, including a goat at the bottom, and the trees have plenty of these hose pieces adding detail. A lot of snot bricks have been used, adding sideways 1x2 tiles to create bricks that stick out slightly, and the combination of the brown of the wooden parts and the light bluish grey of the stone parts work very well. You can see a small artillery device up here, and a door where the ring from Lord of the Rings has been used as the door handle. It's a great build, but let's move on. Next we have this dragon, and this sort of base with a rocky outcrop with a dragon knight on the end. I think this is a great build, but I do wonder here how the dragon is attached. It would be terrific if it was attached through the flame here, but I don't think it is, and I think some sort of stand has been likely edited out in Photoshop. Nonetheless, it's a great build with some skeletons and shields scattered below, but what makes it even better is this rock has been built at an angle with one section running along the top and another section on the bottom that have been connected together. The dragon itself works well, using what looks like paper cut out for the wings. I doubt these are official wing cloth pieces. And a dark red body, featuring lots of snot techniques and tiles for that smooth look, with some brown and dark brown as the complementary colour. Next, we have this very mathematical and very clean look to this castle. It is a micro scale build, but I think it achieves the castle aesthetic very well, using these minifigure shields as large decorations. The archways and walls remind me of an MC Escher painting, in which the mathematical compositions work really well. We've got a lot of clean edges, and the dark blue roofs also work great. As we can see down here, we have some flower pieces turned over for some pink trees, one of those nano figures as the statue, and a green clown wig as a bush, as well as what looks like these pillar pieces as the corners. Moving on, we have the vending machine. This is definitely not a MOC, but I think it's been included in this list because it comes with two new castle figures. I'll talk about them in another video, I'm sure. But if you want to see that, let me know in the comments. Next, we've got this very interesting cottage on this freeform base. Well, I'm not a fan of the base as much as I am of the cottage. It's a great build with plenty of animals and these very interesting mushrooms. I think it would have benefited from some taller trees to balance out the very horizontal composition, and a few more plants. The road and grass all have the same texture though, which I'm not a huge fan of, and I'm also not a fan of the abrupt edge to the road. especially seeing as this is a free-form base. However, the cottage itself is quite nice with that daub and wattle look achieved with dark brown tiles and white bricks. And the bottom layer is stone with a lot of snot techniques in which dark bluish grey plates and tiles have been placed on top of dark bluish grey plates. Some old horses and animals from the old Lego castle have been included, as well as some new ones. And of course, a piece of cheese and a well. Here's another photo, a closer up of the house. This build is a particularly good take on a medieval cottage with another freeform base. You can see the roof has been done with primarily black wing plates or wedge plates covered in black tiles of all sorts. And even though it's not covered completely, I think this adds to the appearance, showing you don't need to completely tile off all your builds to achieve a sleek look. This bridge is also well done with some sort of hose pieces underneath, and it looks like 1x4 tiles and 1x2 have just been placed on top, which I'm not sure how legal or how stable that is. Over here we've got a bundle of sticks tied with a piece of string, and so we know for sure this build was not done legally, but that's fine anyway. Over here on the tree it looks like we've got some whip or hose pieces wrapped around a central column, which adds some nice detail. And of course we've got a knight and a peasant minifigure. The choice of lime green in the ground scattered amongst the light bluish grey rocks works quite well, and this light bluish grey has been brought up into the build with a lot of snot techniques that makes me feel as though this build will fall apart at any moment, even though it looks good. Moving on, we have a tiny castle, and even though it looks simple, what makes this one impressive is how it uses normal pieces. These are the binocular pieces that you might see in Lego Star Wars or Lego Police City sets, and they've been used as towers and turrets. These have not been secured down, but instead the land is just placed on top of the sideways built ocean. The boat is very simple with just a 1x2 ingot in brown and one of those white tiles just resting on top. Moving on, we have a very vertical build. It's a cross section of a cliff with an entrance to a sort of dwarven mine at the bottom, above a frozen lake. There's quite a bit to unpack in this one, but we'll start at the bottom. You can see they've got this black base, which is fairly common, but what I like about this is how they've used plates turned on their side with a rounded bit on the end instead of just a 1x something brick running along the border. In the ground they've got this dark brown, which works quite well with this white on top, using these tooth pieces to create the snow dripping over the edge and a lot of curved slopes in the ground for that puffy snow look. The trees are built with a lot of snot bricks and hose pieces, using that sand green and the white leaf pieces to create a snowy northern sort of forest. The door has been snot built where these horns have been cleverly used as the handles, and these shurikens from Ninjago have been used as the hinges. The minifigure itself is great too, with some Viking parts and one of those shields with a dish piece on top, making it more like a dwarf. The rockwork itself is also very well done. It looks like they've created a primarily flat surface, and then they've snot built on these panel and these wedge pieces to create a more textured look. The same technique for the snow is repeated up here with another layer of dark brown adding a bit of soil underneath. And another horse with another Viking sort of dwarf minifigure. You can also see here they haven't used the standard saddle, but instead have built their own with a bucket handle and clip in gold, which I think works quite well. Moving on, we have a small minifigure array. The only thing I'll point out here is this banner. I think it's done particularly well. We've got this long flex tube piece by the look of it, with two of the silver arrows on each side, a shield, and some green flags, creating a nice symmetrical look. Another small build with not much to say. And now we'll move on to one of the best builds we've seen so far this video. Titled the Black Falcon's Keep, this castle is another one on a black base with a bit of woodland stretching up into the black towers. I think this looks great, and the photo really has done this build a good job of showcasing it. Starting with these trees, you can see that they've used these grass elements, and it seems as though they've just stacked them up and somehow wedged them in to the middle. I'll have to try that sometime in my own builds, but I don't know if I'll have enough of these grass pieces, if I'm being honest. Next, we've got two guards standing at the entrance. They use these helmets from a Star Wars set instead of classic castle helmets, and I think that works quite well here. You can also see in the floor they've inset some kind of logo, likely built with those 1x1 cheese slopes in a circular gap. We've got banners, shields set into them, and the iconic black roofs that the Black Falcons always have. This build's done a great job, and I particularly like the columns on the corner of each tower. Really adds a lot. Moving on, we have I'm not really sure what to say this is. It seems as though aliens have invaded a micro-scale medieval world. But one thing I'll just point out here is these trees, created with these kind of drill pieces in sand green, put into a 1x1 hollow plate, which is round. This build certainly is interesting, and it's not something that you see every day. Another build from Lord of the Rings by the look of it, or perhaps just fantasy more generally, with a nice courtyard and castle. You can see here for the arch they've stacked plates without pushing them down and only connecting them along one side, leaving the other side with gaps to create this curve. And while it's not legal, I think it works great, and it's something I've tried to do in my own builds, even though it loves to fall apart. We have a very black collection of minifigures down here. And let's move on to the second page. Now we're going to take a look at the Siege Encampment from the Bricklink Designers Program Series 4. This build is certainly unique. You don't often see such a scattered set with so many small parts, but I think for a siege encampment it works quite well. A notable thing we probably should talk about is the trebuchet. You can see they've built this base with a lot of snot bricks and even a string, and I think it probably functions as a trebuchet should. This set would be great as army building or just to have, but let's move on. This is another snowy build. Snow seems to be a common theme in these medieval builds, but let's see how they've done it. This time they have used less of the sloped, the curved slopes and more of the straight slopes, building them into the rockwork instead of just putting them on top. You can also see they've mixed in a lot of these brown plants and even white flowers. The snow on the roof also does well, and you can see these 1x2 tiles have been secured by just not pushing them in properly and instead just resting them on top. And for the last build of this video, let's take a look at this one. You know what, since I've already analyzed this build on this channel, see if you can find which video that's from and let me know in the comments, I'll review one more. Here we go, this is a good build to finish on. So, there are a few things to discuss here. Firstly, the photography. Look at this, it's just brilliant. We've got these pieces in the background are blurred out, and so is the foreground, leaving this really clean section in focus through the middle, and they achieve that with a very open aperture, if you're wondering about the photography side of it. The background color choice works well too, but now let's talk about the build itself. Of course, this is using the fairly recent Wolfpack Beastmaster collectible minifigure, which I made a video about on this channel, and we've got the wolves here to match. As you can see, instead of putting the quiver on the back of the minifigure as is standard, the builder has connected it to this side, and I think that works really well, even if it leaves a gap between the torso and legs. For the crossbow, there's this brown sausage with minifigure hands, and what looks like one of those Technic claw pieces in here with a kind of blaster pistol for the handle. And over here we've got one of those hatchet pieces that I believe came with a Native American collectible minifigure. The main wolf itself is done particularly well, with a good combination of dark grey, light grey, and even a bit of silver in the ears. There's a lot of like Technic and droid pieces, but this just uses simple techniques achieved to a really high standard. The figure on top also looks good, where the brown collar and eye patch really matches the theme quite well. That's all for this video. Make sure you like and subscribe, and of course, I'll see you next time.